Freshness and fullness, huh? Remember, that's what we learned yesterday about why we like crispy foods. Well, these are pretty fresh, I have to admit, and can you hear that? Nice crunchy sound, yeah, nope, definitely sounding fresh. And remember, have you guys ever opened some potato chips and then you close them and then you have them like the next day or a day later or 2 days later? Not so fresh, are they? They taste the same, but they don't have that crunch, and often you're like, ugh. We would say those are stale. Those chips are stale. They've gotten a little wet. They're not so fresh anymore, and that kind of thing. And actually, that's a good little bit of information. Sometimes you get your chips and you open them and it's only like half full. Oh, that's so annoying. And you're like, oh, they filled it with air. How come my bag is half air and half chips? I want more chips. Well, actually, that's not air inside the bag. It's nitrogen. That gas that they put in there keeps the food fresh and also makes it kind of like a pillow so your chips don't get all crunched up and broken when they get them from the factory to the store. So the air in there is actually nitrogen. It's keeping them fresh. Now, fullness. I don't know. I haven't finished my bag. Do I feel full? Kind of. I don't think potato chips would be a meal, but it's interesting. Maybe if I had potato chips that were fresh or potato chips that were not so fresh, kind of stale, maybe that would be different. Maybe I would want to eat more of the stale chip. No, I wouldn't want to do that. Fresh chips, the best way to go. And you know what else is good? Part 2 of our article, because we're going to be finding out more reasons why we like crispy food. So let's check it out.
Texture. One of the greatest pleasures of eating is the variety of textures that you can experience. The sensation of food in your mouth is known as mouthfeel. Along with the softness of a nice cheese or the juiciness of a ripe mango, the crispiness of food gives a satisfying mouthfeel. Sound. The noisiness of foods like cookies or peanuts could also be a factor. When you're eating a crunchy food, you're hearing as well as tasting, which is a richer experience for our brains. In addition, the sound could draw our attention from other things around us, like our phones, and make us focus on the food's flavor instead.
All right, so let's get into why do we like crispy food? We've already heard about freshness and fullness, so let's move on and get a third reason why crispy food is something we all crave at different times. Texture is the third one. Texture, that's the feeling of something, okay? When you use adjectives to talk about what something feels when you touch it, very smooth, very rough, something like that. That's the texture, and we can use the same term to talk about how the food feels in our mouth as we're eating it. So texture. One of the greatest pleasures of eating is the variety of textures that you can experience. Yeah, it's really true. And a lot of the foods we like the most, they might mix different textures, right? Think of a hamburger that might have something soft like the meat or the cheese. It might have something crunchy like the lettuce or the pickles inside. And we like that kind of stuff. We like those different textures. If it's not in one food, it might be on your plate. You might have some soft things, some crunchy things, that type of idea. Then we read, the sensation of food in your mouth is known as mouthfeel. This is a very important word in food science. Whenever they're thinking of a new food, a new type of chocolate bar, potato chip, or snack, they spend a lot of time focused on the mouthfeel, the texture of something. For example, along with the softness of a nice cheese or the juiciness of a ripe mango, the crispiness of food gives a satisfying mouthfeel. And this is something that people can really really have strong opinions about. I know many foreigners, when they come to Taiwan or visit Asia, the texture of the food, especially some of the unusual food, might be, ooh, I don't like that. Ooh, tofu. Ooh, the texture of the food. Or that natto stuff, you know, those little beans from Japan. Very healthy, but for many foreigners, the texture of that is, ugh, what is that? It tastes like something from a science fiction movie. Taiwanese people, if they go to the West, cheese, blue cheese has a strong smell, but also an unusual texture, that type of thing. We also saw this adjective ripe. When we talk about ripe, we talk about food, especially grown food, food from a farm, from a tree, from a plant, and it's fresh, basically. It's ready to eat. You know, sometimes you buy some fruit and you bite into it, it's a little too hard. Well, it's not ripe yet. Or if you bite into it and it's too soft, ooh, it's overripe. It's past the best time. It's a little bit too old. So if something is ripe, it's the perfect time to eat it. And some foods, of course, they help us by changing color as they ripen, right? We can use ripen as a verb, to get ripe. Here's the best example for our example sentence. These bananas are still green, so they aren't ripe yet, right? If they're green, they're not ripe. If they're brown, they're overripe. But if they're that nice yellow color, they would be perfectly ripe. Okay, so texture is what the food feels like in our mouth. And what about what the food sounds like? Yeah, that's another part of the appeal of crispy food. It says sound. The noisiness of foods like cookies or peanuts could also be a factor. Interesting. It relates to the freshness, right? If you bite into those old potato chips, they won't crunch. The mouthfeel, the texture will be soft, and they won't make that nice crunching sound that we enjoy. So it's another factor. A factor is an important part of a bigger idea or a bigger issue. When we're talking about the things that we do, different factors might come in. How much time will it take? How much energy will it take? How much money will it take? How much fun will it be? These are different factors. So if someone asks you to join them on some kind of activity or an adventure, you might say, well, when is it? Where is it? How much will it cost? You know, that type of thing. These are all the different questions, all the different parts of it, or the factors of it that we have to think about. When we're talking about texture, freshness, sound, and other things like that, we're talking about the different factors of why we like crispy food. Here's our example sentence. Cost was the main factor in the company's decision to cancel the project. Could they do it? That was a factor. Did they want to do it? That was a factor. Did they have time? All of these things. But cost, how much it cost, or the price, that was an important factor. Back to our article. When you're eating a crunchy food, you're hearing as well as tasting, which is a richer experience for our brains. Absolutely. Have you ever noticed when they have people eating crispy foods on television for a commercial like potato chips, they always sound so crunchy. They sound so good and fresh. And if you're like me, you might eat them at home and go, these don't sound as good as I thought they would. That sound of the crunch isn't quite as loud and as bright and as attractive as I hoped. And then we read, in addition, the sound could draw our attention from other things around us, like our phones, and make us focus on the food's flavor instead. I never thought of that. The loud crunchiness makes you focus on the food you're eating, and of course, if you focus on the food, you'll probably enjoy it more and spend more time, taking pleasure from that food. It keeps our attention focused on the food. The only time you might focus on someone eating soup is if they make a lot of noise, and that's not a very nice sound. Attention is when we use our mind and focus it on an activity or what we are doing. When you're focusing your attention, when you're paying attention and doing things like that, all of your brain power, all of your time, all of your energy is really spent on doing the thing that you're doing. Noises, being hungry, being tired, these are things that might take your attention away from something. Here's something that was getting attention. The man with the pet monkey received a lot of attention on the subway. A lot of people were looking at him, talking about him, maybe even going over and asking questions. They weren't ignoring him. They weren't looking away. Oh, it's just a guy with a monkey. No, that would be a very strange and interesting thing. And another word that we had there that's a super important word to talk about, to use when talking about food is the word flavor. The flavor is how it tastes, right? We want to have good flavor. We want to have flavor in our food. If we don't have flavor, it's like you're eating paper or something like that. We can talk about different flavors as well, like strawberry or vanilla or chocolate for ice cream, but generally, if your food tastes like something, it has flavor. If it tastes like you're eating paper or an old shoe, it doesn't have much flavor. For example, this food doesn't have much flavor. Did you forget to add salt? Sure, salt will bring food to your flavor. Flavor to your food. Let's take a break.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。我们在第一天的课文读到，人们渴望脆脆的食物，其中2个原因就是新鲜，还有饱足感。那么第3个原因则是口感。我们在吃东西的时候，其中的一大乐趣就是可以体验到各种口感，像是美味 cheese 的那个柔软啊，还有成熟芒果的那种多汁，还有食物的酥脆等等，都会给人一种满足的口感。那文中用到2个名词来指口感。首先 texture， 它是表达质感、质地或是口感，它是客观去形容这个食物的软硬度。那么 mouthfeel 则是指口感，它是强调个人主观对食物所吃起来的感受。Mike 老师刚刚用到说，在这个吃汉堡啊、肉啊、cheese、腌黄瓜的时候会带来不同口感，他用到 pickle 这个字 ，P-I-C-K-L-E，pickle 就是腌黄瓜。好，那么单字 ripe 可以用来描述果实或是作物它是成熟的。如果在前面加上 overripe 表示过熟的。如果把 over 改成 un 变成 unripe， 那就是生的、未成熟的。好，再来，如果我们是在 ripe 后面加上一个 n 变成 ripen， 那就表示成熟，使什么成熟。好，那么人们渴望酥脆食物，第4个原因就是声音。我们在吃脆脆的食物时，会听到这个声音，然后还有尝到味道，为我们大脑呢带来更丰富的体验。好，那么此外呢，声音可以把我们的注意力从周遭事物呢把它吸引过来，让我们改为专注在食物的味道上。好，单字 factor 就是因素、要素。那么 attention 它表示注意力或是关注，还有 flavor 表示滋味啊、味道或是口味。那我们知道冰淇淋有很多不同口味，像老师说的这个香草啊、巧克力、草莓等等。那么 vanilla 这个字呢，它是拼作 V-A-N-I-L-L-A，vanilla 它可以当名词来指香草，或者是当形容词来描述香草味的。那这边一个重点，我们进入文法时间。好，这边我们来看 instead 跟 instead of 的比较。Instead 是副词，它表示作为代替、反而或者是相反地，它可以摆在句首或是句尾。那么 instead of 则是介系词，用来表达代替什么什么，而不是什么什么，后面要接名词或动名词，也就是被代替的事物哦。好，我们来看一组例句。Kate had too much coffee this morning.So she ordered tea instead. Kate 今天早上喝太多咖啡，所以她点了茶作为代替。那么我们可以再造一个例句是 Kate ordered tea instead of coffee. Kate 点了茶而不是咖啡。好，那我们接着回到课文中。
There are many reasons why we enjoy crunchy foods.With this in mind, we should not forget that most of these treats contain other things we crave, such as sugar, salt, and fat. Therefore, it's important to choose healthy snacks like apples so that we can enjoy crunchy foods without adopting a poor diet.
All right, so I think we're done with our list of reasons we love crunchy foods. It's a pretty good list so far, and yeah, it seems to have covered a lot of the reasons I might like to enjoy some potato chips or popcorn. And as the article continues, we read there are many reasons why we enjoy crunchy foods. Absolutely, we've just talked about some of them. With this in mind, we should not forget that most of these treats contain other things we crave, such as sugar, salt, and fat. Yeah, it's good to kind of think back to that list. Remember the list that began the article yesterday? Not many of those foods were healthy. We had potato chips, popcorn, I think peanuts, French fries, chocolate chip cookies were on there. There's a lot of sugar, a lot of salt and fat in most of those things, except maybe popcorn, but then people often put salt and butter, that's salt and fat, on their popcorn. So not the healthiest foods, even if you are craving them. So what do? Well, therefore, the article tells us it's important to choose healthy snacks like apples so that we can enjoy crunchy foods without adopting a poor diet. Yeah, get yourself some nice fresh apples. Another one I like to have, carrots and celery, right? Very healthy vegetables. You can cut those up, put them in some cold water in your fridge. They'll stay nice and crispy and crunchy, and obviously much healthier than peanuts or popcorn when next time you're watching your favorite movie, and your diet will definitely thank you for it. Now, diet is a noun. It's a word we're looking at here, and it's an interesting word because it can kind of have two meanings that we use very often. Most people, when they hear diet, they hear it like, I'm going on a diet because I want to lose weight. When we use it that way, we're talking about changing the foods we eat and eating healthier foods, eating fewer foods, eating foods with less sugar and fat. But we can also use diet just to talk about all the foods that you normally eat. And there we would probably be using some kind of adjective. Your doctor would tell you to have a healthy diet, but you might be having a high sugar, high fat diet, in which case you'd have to go on a diet and change it to a healthy diet, right? A diet can just be the general, normal, common foods that a person or an animal eats, right? The diet of a human is very different from the diet of a cat. Cats can really only eat meat. It's not safe for cats to eat fruits and vegetables, whereas the human diet, for normal, healthy people, if you only eat meat, that's not a good diet. Even if it's healthy meat, you still need to have fruits and vegetables. So diet here is talking about the foods you generally eat as a person. For example, Gordon is unwilling to change his diet, so I'm not surprised he is in poor health. He has a poor diet. All right, let's look at our what do you think question. Do you enjoy eating crunchy foods? If you do, what are some of your favorites? If you don't, why not? Well, for myself, I would say I like to eat crunchy foods. Some of my favorites are peanuts. I do like to eat peanuts. And also, as I mentioned, carrots and celery sticks. When they're fresh, they're very crunchy. You can get that chewing sensation. You can feel full. And of course, it's much healthier. Thanks for joining us, guys. Enjoy yourselves out there. Make some good choices in your diet, but it's okay once in a while to have some popcorn at the movies or a bag of potato chips. But as I said, once in a while. We'll see you back here soon with more great articles. Until then, happy crunching. Bye-bye.
好，我们喜欢美味酥脆食物的原因有很多，但是要记住，这些食物大多含有糖啊、盐和脂肪，因此呢，选择健康的零食是很重要的。像你可以选苹果啊，或者是 Mike 老师说的红萝卜，还有芹菜等等，这样才能有良好的饮食，同时又能享有鲜脆的食物。老师说的 celery，C-E-L-E-R-Y，celery 表示芹菜或是西洋芹。那么单字 diet 它可以指我们日常的饮食，那也可以指节食，就是我们为了减重而节食的那种节食。好，这边一个重点，我们要进入文法时间。好，我们来看重点。It 形容词加不定词 to be 可以表达做某事是怎么样怎么样的。那么句型中的 it 是虚主词，真正的主词是后面那个不定词 to be。那你可以在不定词 to be 的前方去加上 for somebody 来指出对象。我们来造两个例句。It's rude to stare at people. 盯着别人看是不礼貌的哦。 It's difficult for me to get up early in the morning. 对我来说啊，早起是很困难的。对你们来说会吗？好，那么以上是今天的讲解，同学们别走开，马上回来哦。
Texture. One of the greatest pleasures of eating is the variety of textures that you can experience. The sensation of food in your mouth is known as mouthfeel. Along with the softness of a nice cheese or the juiciness of a ripe mango, the crispiness of food gives a satisfying mouthfeel. Sound. The noisiness of foods like cookies or peanuts could also be a factor. When you're eating a crunchy food, you're hearing as well as tasting, which is a richer experience for our brains. In addition, the sound could draw our attention from other things around us, like our phones, and make us focus on the food's flavor instead. There are many reasons why we enjoy crunchy foods. With this in mind, we should not forget that most of these treats contain other things we crave, such as sugar, salt, and fat. Therefore, it's important to choose healthy snacks like apples so that we can enjoy crunchy foods without adopting a poor diet.
Hi everyone, I'm Stephen.
I'm Jamie.
We're going to play a game called Word Drop, where each of us has 3 words or phrases on these cards that we haven't looked at yet. And we're going to try to work it into a conversation as casually as possible. So ladies first.
Okay, ready?
Make it fun. Don't do something boring.
Oh, pressure. Okay, all right, ready? Let's go. Okay, so everyone likes to eat food, right? And there are many different food groups, right? There's like meat food group and vegetable food group. And one food group that I enjoy a lot is the fruit food group. And so I think with fruit though, the only thing about buying it is that you have to buy food that is ripe. You want ripe fruit.
Oh, that is true. Wow, you really went for a really interesting conversation starter, Jamie. That is absolutely correct. I feel like food groups are something that people tend to forget. Like I usually tend to forget to eat healthy, and I usually tend to eat at like the top of the food pyramid, like in the sweets and candies and stuff. I usually just don't really pay that much attention to what I eat.
Oh, I think it's easy to not pay attention to what you eat, but it's important to because there are many parts of your health that you should pay attention to, and food, like what you eat, is just one of them, your nutrition.
That is right.
But I understand that it's not always easy for everyone to buy healthy food, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe they don't know where to find it. And also, I think cost is a main factor in people's decision to buy food.
That is true. I feel like healthy foods are usually a lot more expensive. And usually healthy foods taste like poop sometimes. It's just not that tasty. And then for me, I feel like foods that are at the top of the pyramid usually have a lot more flavor. So
Yeah, I think so too. I think that the foods that we like to eat, right, are usually like the ones with, I don't know, high fats or high sugars, right? And yeah, those are okay to eat in moderation. But overall, we want to have a healthy, balanced diet.
yeah, but it's just not fun sometimes, you know, to eat healthy, balanced breakfast, lunch, whatever. It's like those commercials back in the day. It's like, have a healthy, balanced breakfast. And there's like cereal with like a bunch of sugar and there's like a banana beside it. I don't know. I didn't really feel like those were really good commercials. But I do feel like to lead a healthy life, we should eat a lot more fruits and vegetables instead of fatty goodness like cake and candy, which is what I eat every day.
Was your word candy?
No, it wasn't.
Whoa.
Don't worry about it. I said it.
Okay. So I'm like trying to figure out which word it was.
It was instead of.
Oh, instead of.
So eat healthy instead of fatty goodness.
Oh.
See you next time.